Whoops. It was a brisk fall morning as the grandmother stepped off of her front porch and breathed in the fresh morning air. The sun was just coming over the horizon, and she stood there in the quiet for a long time until deep within her rose the words, "Creator, thank you for another day." She walked slowly into the fire ring, stirred the coals, put some more wood onto the fire, and rebuilt the sacred fire. Then she returned to the house to begin preparations for breakfast. So began each morning for the grandmother. This is one of the many stories that I have heard all the time I was growing up about my third great grandmother, who was full-blooded Cherokee, who married a white man. And we have passed the stories down from generation to generation to remember our history and our culture, to teach the children, to maintain a connection with our ancestors, to honor the Creator and His creation, and to remember who we are. The stories of our peoples are often told by the dominant culture, and they tell it from their perspective. In Georgia, I heard growing up that there were no more Indians in Georgia after the Trail of Tears. That was false. Many of us remained hidden in the shadows, but we are still here. Today is an introduction to many, but not all, of the tribes who call Georgia home. So welcome, YouTube listeners and viewers and participants. Let's begin with introductions. First of all, my name is Becky Jones, and I am, as I said, Cherokee. My tribal ancestors have been in Georgia for as long as we can remember. I am a retired full connection elder in the North Georgia Conference of the United Methodist Church. I serve as chair of the Committee on Native American Ministries, which is sponsoring this YouTube ministry. We hope that you will like and subscribe to this presentation and to our Facebook page, Georgia Red Clay Mission, Inc. So we'll begin now with some self-introductions in reverse alphabetical order by the name of the tribe. I'm going to ask that we begin by you sharing your name, the tribe which you identify with, and tell us whether or not your tribe originated in Georgia, and if not, how did you get here? And finally, are you clergy or laity? So let's begin. We want to start with Seminole, Jennifer Coffey.
Hey there, I am Jennifer Coffey, and I am a lay member of Vinings United Methodist Church in Atlanta. And my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, is Seminole. And I only recently learned that in the early 2000s. We did not know that because my grandmother, who was born in Moultrie, Georgia, just across the Florida state line, her birth certificate says that she was born Black. We always thought that was a mistake, that the hospital just made a mistake until my father had DNA testing. And that's where we discovered my dad was more majority Seminole than anything else. And we figured it out that the hospital had her pass as Black so she could stay in Georgia, because in Georgia it was illegal to be Indian. And so she passed as Black, and then she passed as white. Imagine that, an Indian passing as Black and then passing as white. And we didn't even know until a decade or so ago. So the Seminole left Georgia, left Lower Georgia and Alabama for Florida. So that's how I have come here. My family is from South Georgia. So that's how we arrived.
Excellent, thank you. And now let's hear from Iroquois, Valerie Wingate.
Yes, hello. My name is Valerie Wingate, and I am Iroquois. And I also recently found out that we may also even have some Abenaki Indian. I've been doing some research and trying to find more detailed information. And similar to what Jennifer said, you know, sometimes they didn't necessarily write Native American on the birth certificate, they may have written white. So it's hard to prove those things if you don't actually have the reservation card, a card from the reservation. So we're running into some situations there, you know, actually proving our heritage. But Native American I am, and that's what I claim. And so do my children. I am not originally from Georgia. I was born and raised in Vermont, and Iroquois are actually from Canada and New York. I am a transplant to Georgia because I was in the Air Force. I'm retired Air Force, and I ended up here in Georgia as my last duty station. And this is where we are for now. So we'll see. But let's see. And I am lay person at Christway Christian Church.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Amen.
Muskogee Creek, Mike Sharon.
I'm clergy, Mike Sharon. I serve a church in Kennesaw named New Beginnings. I identify as Upper Creek of the Muskogees, and my grandmother was born on Native American reservation, the Alabama Cusata in Livingston, Texas. During the Great Depression, they left. They were starving, so they left the reservation, made an eastward migration to Mississippi, then a northern migration up to Memphis. And my father wanted us to return to the homeland that we came from. So that's why I live in Douglas County. That's as close as he could find that we were from. We're close, not far. I'm about 12 miles from the McIntosh Reservation. And I guess I have folks in my family. Some are dark complexion, some are light complexion. I have my dad's first cousin. One came out dark, one came out light. I have first cousins that are sisters, one dark, one light. My grandmother always said I am not. She was, a lot of people told her during the time of segregation to sit in the back of the bus. She said, I am not black, I am dark complexioned. My father was very olive skinned. Many people thought he was Italian. He had sort of a Dean Martin tan. So that's where we're at. I am a, I guess you would say I was not born in Georgia, but I'm a return native. I returned back to our homeland as close as we can find out anyway. I guess there's probably several million acres that we could pick from around here that belong to Creek. All right. That's all I know. Anything else?
Okay, well, I thank you for that. And now we'll go to Cherokee Lamar Sneed.
Well, hello, folks. Yes, my grandmother was quarter Cherokee. Keep in mind, though, I would like all of you to send me your email address, because in 1830, Georgia passed. That's when they actually outlawed the Cherokee existence in Georgia. By the way, the Cherokees are Iroquois. Most people don't realize that. There's nothing unique about the Cherokee language. It's Iroquoian. Of course, by the number of years that they were in the South, just like the rest of us, they developed their own dialect, but it still basically is Iroquoian. Just to kind of let you know that our people were all over the country, all over the part of the eastern country. But anyway, in 1830, Georgia outlawed, even the last 4 years of the Cherokee Nation, the chief and the council had to meet across Red Clay, Tennessee to keep from being arrested. One of those laws where 2 or more people overheard even discussing the Cherokee existence in Georgia was subject to 4 years of hard labor in the state penitentiary. Believe me, that was not a threat. They did it. They arrested 4 missionaries. It's called Worcester versus the state of Georgia. Go on the computer, look it up. Finally, after a couple of years, they were made to turn them loose and they went to Oklahoma. But Georgia, part of those laws where 2 or more people overheard discussing the Cherokee existence, again, 4 years at hard labor. They also declared Indians as people of color in that period of time in the 1830s before the Civil War. You know what that means. So as a result, people just did not discuss any Cherokee or Indian heritage at all in Georgia. And but I'd be more than happy to send you. Those are in the archives of Georgia laws, but I will send those laws to you. If everybody will send me an email, I'll send it to you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lamar. And now the Arawak tribe represented by Ed Swalen.
Yes, I'm an Arawak. My family is from Jamaica. The Arawak originally came out of the Amazon River Basin. They were with some other tribes. They also had settlements along coastal Florida and into Georgia. But my great-grandparents emigrated from Jamaica to New York State. And so I grew up with the Iroquois, going to school with them. And then I was called into ministry and found a Bible college in Georgia. And that was a while back. And we've been here ever since. I am a clergy person, retired United Methodist pastor after 36 years. It was time. So Arawak, nobody knows who we are, never heard of us, but we're the ones who discovered Columbus lost at sea in 1492. That was us. When he said, I see Indians, he saw my people, and also some of the Carib, and then there were some other tribes. But some of the islands were called Taino. You might hear that more often. I think in Cuba we're called Taino. It's the same people, but we had a 3-class system. The Taino was the ruling class. There was a middle class and a slave class. And so when the Europeans arrived and started talking to people, the ruler said, hey, Taino, talk to me. So they said, oh, these are Taino guys. So they called us Taino. So Arawak, originally from Jamaica, here we are in Georgia.
And we're glad you are.
Mhm.
All right. And now we're going to ask some questions. And instead of calling on each of you, I'm just going to let you jump in when you want and when you're ready to give an answer to it. Our first question is, what is the one important value from your tribal relationship that shapes your faith?
Becky, I'll get it started.
Okay.
So this is Jennifer, and the one thing that speaks to me is that the Seminole are made up of runaways, right? Runaway Creeks from southern Alabama and southern Georgia, but they're not runaways, they're the unconquered. And that's sort of what Seminole means, right? Is unconquered. And so for me, it's to not let someone else conquer me, and to be true to myself, be true to the Creator, and to serve Creator, and not let anyone else tell me who I am. So that's really what I take from it.
Awesome. Who else?
Well, I'll jump in next.
I don't know that.
Oh, go ahead, Ed. Didn't mean to step on you.
All right, I'll go. I don't know that any of the tradition has actually shaped my faith, but knowing who I am has been important, because I'm part Arawak, I'm part African, I'm part European, and people want to put labels and put you in a classification. And I say, you don't know who I am, but I do. And more importantly, I know who I am in Christ. And so that strength, I think, is good for life.
Amen.
Yes. Okay, Valerie.
Well, what I was going to say is, our Creator God did create the earth and everything that's in it, and I have a great value for the earth and all that's in the earth. And which is inherent in my children, because I have one child who's a marine biologist, that we are definitely in love with animals. And we treasure the earth, and we don't want to see it polluted. And that's just the love of the earth, and the fact that it was created for us, and that we need to respect it. It's really stuck with me.
Can I add to that? That is so perfect. I have many friends that are ministers, and I've had the occasion to tell them that Native Americans basically live their religion every day.
Yes.
In the early days, there were not just Cherokees, but I know about that they would help the sun come up in the morning by praying, and it was a gift every day from God that the sun would come up. Without the sun, there would be no life. And yet people confuse that by saying they worship the sun, they worship trees. No, they worship everything that God put on this earth. God made no mistakes. Everything was here for a reason. And as a result, many of the, and I'm sure other tribes did, but I could just talk about the traditions of the Cherokees. Early in the morning, daily, regardless of 12 months a year, how cold it would be, they would go to the streams and actually physically dunk physically into the water as a ritual cleansing. Even young babies, they written that they would have to break the ice to put the baby under the water. Later on now, they just went down on their knees, and just like maybe we would do today, they'd reach down with their, get a cup full of water and put it over the head, much like a baptism. But water, in fact, with the Cherokees, the word for it in English would be long man. It'd be the veins of Mother Earth. They would not dare do anything to despoil the water or pollute the water. But that was true with the whole earth, but particularly the streams. And by the way, that's my dog, excuse me. But they lived with thanking God for everything that was given to them. And they live their religion every day. And it's sadly that many of us and our people today cannot imitate or that system of respecting creation on a daily basis in everything that we do.
Amen.
Amen.
The one value that's great, Lamar. Thank you for sharing that. The important value I guess I've got is one, the Creek tribe, we don't like being painted in a corner. And, you know, we don't want to, I don't know how to put this, but there's a famous quote by John Adams and Ben Franklin came up. It says, resistance to tyrants is the beginning of obedience to God. And we have so many tyrants in government that try to force us to do things that we don't really want to do. And you think about that. My grandmother did not want to be painted in a corner and called a black person. She said, I have a dark complexion, but she was not about to acknowledge that she was Native American, or they would have forced her back to the reservation. So you don't want to be painted in a corner, but they didn't have Native pride in her day. It was the big secret, as you can imagine. And I think part of my faith, I grew up poor, and then I went from poor to real poor when I went into ministry in the Methodist Church. And I will tell you, I learned to call back on all the things that my father taught me: hunting, fishing, gardening, to have enough to put in the freezer. And of course, all the while, even then, I trusted God that He would give, not just bless me and my family, but you always give back more than you receive. So if you get 3 deer, you give 2 away. You know, you always bless others with, when you have, you don't ask for more, you just ask for enough.
Yes.
And that's important part of my faith even today. I'm not a hoarder. I don't hoard things. I don't gather things. I just pray for enough.
Wonderful. I see that Bruce Cook, who is the newest member of our committee, has joined us, and we are delighted to have him with us. He is not Native, but he is very strong supporter of Native Americans, and so we're glad to have him with us.
Thank you, Becky. Glad to be here.
The next question that we have is, we hear a lot today in the dominant culture about smudging. Everybody wants to do a smudging. And, you know, you hear about white people having smudgings down on the beach and stuff like that. So my question is, as we hear about that in the dominant culture, what is a smudging ceremony as you understand it? And how is it used in your tribe, if it is? So that's the question, smudging.
Well, let me just add to that a little bit. Smudging, usually people, you can order sweetgrass on the line, but it was really, well, it was also used in conjunction maybe with a candle with fire. In our own churches, we have 2 candles on the altar when we light. The Catholics use smoke as well as candles. A lot of people don't understand about that, but the fire was a blessing from God. But actually, many prayer ceremonies were around God or using smoke to deliver. Smoke rises, and you hope that you can add your prayers to that smoke, that puff of smoke. That was part of our traditions, all, not just Cherokee, all Native Americans, I believe, that way. And many times people smudging just to remove poor spirits. I guess if you believe that really works, do it. But I've been in many ceremonies, but I will tell you, I've been in sweat lodge, prayer lodge ceremonies. A lot of people don't really realize it's over prayer lodge than the sweat lodge. But smudging is part of that ceremony before and after and during the prayer lodge. Hopefully, we're getting some land, folks, and we're going to build 2 real nice prayer lodges. And I hope everybody will have the opportunity to participate in one and actually see how the smudging is done and how the fire is built. And before the people actually go into the lodge, they go to the fire and it's used tobacco. Not that it could brand nothing, whatever, but when you put that tobacco in the fire, before you put it in with a prayer. The fire releases the prayer from the tobacco because it turns into smoke and is delivered to heaven. So hopefully we'll all be able to do that in a few months.
And I want to jump in here with this too, because of that wonderful description you just gave. You can always tell fake Indians trying to get money out of people when they start charging you to go to smudging ceremonies. That is not something you get charged for. So I just wanted to throw that out. I get really offended with people that try to bilk money out of people with our ceremonies. Okay, who else about smudging?
Well, one thing that I learned about smudging when I was just doing a little more research is there's 4 different elements involved in smudging. And just like you're using a shell for the smudging, the container that actually to where the plants are actually burnt, that shell represents water. So that's one element. And then, of course, the plants that we use, it can be sage, it can be cedar, it can be sweet grass, it can be tobacco. Those all represent a second element, which is the earth. And then fire, which is used to actually light those plants so that they can be used for ceremony or for cleansing or blessing, to purify whatever they're actually using the smudging ceremony for. And then the smoke, which is actually brought up into the air, just like we were saying, into the heavens. So those 4 elements, it's water, earth, fire, and air. Those 4 elements are actually used in the smudging ceremony. And then, like we said, depending upon what type of ceremony they're doing, smudging can use just for a blessing, to spiritually cleanse. It's not to purify, to help you come to a decision, all those things to clear your mind.
Anybody else?
Well, yeah, Lamar totally stole my answer. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I was, when I first think about smudging, and how it's used, today it has been used universally. As Lamar was saying, I mean, they used it in Rome in incense, right? Like Lamar was thinking. And whenever I think of smudging, the first thing that comes to my mind is sort of that corporeal prayer of confession before communion. It's cleansing our sins, and that's for me something that's really important. And the other thing is, in the Seminole tribe, only medicine men really are allowed to do that, and it's really something that's very sacred, and they don't really talk much about it because it is such a sacred ceremony. And when it's not so sacred, as you were saying, in other parts of the world, and out there in society, but it is very, very sacred in some tribes.
I think it's cleansing and for health. And I think of, y'all probably seen the movie, The Wind Talkers, where the guy he blew smoke over the guy in the hospital and he said, "What are you doing?" And he didn't understand what he was doing, but he was trying to do something for him while he was
To bless him,
out.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
bless him.
It's just I call it a prayer accent. That's all. It helps accent your prayers.
Anybody else on smudging? Okay, then let's go to the next question. Tell us about the social structure within your tribe.
Oh, I feel like I'm always starting. I'm so sorry. But the Seminole tribe, it's so interesting. So the Seminoles, like the Cherokee, were displaced with the Trail of Tears. So we have tribes in Oklahoma and in Florida. And in Florida, about 2,000 people live on 6 different reservations in Florida. And there's some in Hollywood and Tampa and Brighton, Florida. There's actually 6 reservations. But the thing I love is that the Seminole are divided by clans. And the clans are maternal. You go with the mother, and they're all non-human clans. So it goes with strengths of non-human symbols. And there are 6 clans, and they are, they are the Panther clan, the Bear clan, the Deer, Wind, Big Town, Bird, Snake, and Otter. So those are the clans of the Seminole, and you're not supposed to marry within your clan. And then once the husband marries, he joins the wife's clan. So that's sort of the structure for the Seminoles.
If you don't mind, the clan system among the Cherokee in Georgia actually started dying out probably in the mid or early 50s because there was so much marriage with white women or vice versa that the clan system collapsed. And as a result, in fact, most of the Cherokees don't really remember. They might have been 9 clans. They think there were 7, but it was rather a unique system because every village had a representative group of people representing that particular clan. So when you traveled, you had a place to stay, you had food to eat on the road. So it would not work today, but it was a tremendous system back in the day for most of the Native Americans.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Social structure. Anything
Our
different?
Iroquois also matrilineal and matriarchal, same as what Jennifer had said. When they marry, they can't marry within clans, within each clan, and they do actually move to the house of the mother, that clan's house. Also, the women actually did share social equality and respect. The women actually were the ones that nominated the chiefs for the tribes. And let's see, there was something else that I thought they're called the keepers of the culture. the political, the social, the spiritual, and the economic. Women were the ones that were responsible for all of that. Yeah, that was interesting.
That was true for the Cherokee as well as the Iroquois, the clan system and the matriarchal society. When the man married the woman, his children became part of their clan. And it's
And
interesting
the hard part is that today, for those of us that still have some of that in our system, is watching our sons get married and go off to live with somebody else instead of staying close to home. Our daughters stay close to home because the women are part of the clan, and the husbands that they marry become part of our clan. But then our
your
sons get
children-
married and they move to Waycross, and we're all by ourselves again.
But your sons would belong to another clan when they married.
Yes. And,
Yes.
and when he married, he joined that, and he's moved to where they live. And that's the way it works.
And his children became part of the mother's clan. The aunts and uncles trained their own children. The man father per se did not do
Yes.
it. His duty was back to his clan to raise his nieces and nephews. It was kind of strange, but that's the way it worked.
Yeah.
Well, I can probably piggyback on my Seminole cousin, and the Creek have many clan names, including Wind, Potato, and a bunch of others. I have no idea what ours was, what that was lost that's been lost. But I did talk to some fellow Creeks, and they said, well, what they were told, and I don't know if this is what was handed to me. If you don't know what clan you are to be in, then you will know either by revelation, like if you're in the woods, or if you, for example, I don't know what clan I am. I don't know what clan to claim. I do know that I am one of the few who have seen a mountain lion in Georgia. This was way over towards Hartwell. Is that my clan? I don't know. I do know that I felt very, very guilty when I killed a turkey. I went one time on a turkey hunt, and I saw how beautiful the bird was afterwards. And I said, I will never be able to kill another bird like this, especially when you don't get this much meat out of the breast. And I said, no, I just don't feel, and I killed that close to where Valerie lives up that way. But I thought, so I don't know. It's I guess there's a lot of lost in the communication, but they said if you pray to the Creator, He will let you know what clan you are. And I thought, well, that's good, but I don't really want to be a potato clan. It sounds
Some
like
of us are potato couches anyway. So,
yeah, it sounds like an Irish tribe, maybe. I don't know. But
how about you, Ed? You got something?
Well, our social structure, as I said earlier, was a 3-class system with the ruling class, middle class, and a slave class. I know that we were farmers and fishermen, and kind of, I would say, opportunists. Whatever came along that you could eat, that's what you ate. So you take advantage of those things and use what you have. I don't know anything about clans from my people at all. No idea. I haven't heard anything about that. There were things that are passed down. For instance, about birds being messengers, and a lot of Native peoples understand that birds are messengers. Years and years back, when I was a little kid, we had company. Some of our Native relatives were there, and so forth. And a bird flew in the house, and they were all upset that somebody was going to die because the bird flew in the house. I said, you know what? I'm a Christian, and I'm going to trust God instead, instead of worrying about somebody dying. But from my own experience, God does use with me the hawk. For encouragement and uplifting and so forth. And there have been some really powerful experiences there where I've had him come right down and land in front of me and just stare at me. And that's God saying, I got this, it's okay. Hang in there and keep going. So some of those traditions that have been passed down, we live with.
Good, thank you. And then next, in the news today, there's a lot of things going on about the Indian schools. And so, I think for those of us who were in Georgia all the time, we had a different reaction with the Indian schools. So how did Indian schools affect your tribe, and would it be beneficial to have an intertribal private school that would teach history from Native perspective?
Let me add something when you're talking about teaching history. I get calls pretty regularly. I live in Cumming, north of Atlanta, about 35, 40 miles north of Atlanta, from school teachers. And it seemed like, of course, this month is Native American Awareness Month. And military, I've got 2 military reservations that I've got to speak to, and Department of Natural Resources that wants to actually come down and listen to some of the things that our people are living one with nature. I got a call of not too long ago from a history teacher in Atlanta. First of all, keep in mind, folks, and this is true with you, I can speak for all of you, you weren't taught prehistory. Your basic history was the Constitution, George Washington, and the founding fathers. There was absolutely nothing taught of prehistory in this country. We might have taught about the pyramids of Egypt, but we were never told about the great pyramids of the Mayan and the Inca in Mexico that far exceeded anything that the Egyptians did.
Yep.
But nevertheless, a perfect example too of that Native Americans taught being good husbands of nature and the animals and whatever. Perfect example. If we would have, any one of our kids would say, go out and pick me the first 4 4-leaf clovers that you find in the yard. And maybe it'd take them an hour or maybe 15 minutes or whatever. Some would come out with none, some with some, but nevertheless, they would pick every one they saw. Now, before the word ecology was ever coined, our people were taught, no, you don't do that. You miss the first 3 and you get the 4th one. And as a result, you might take further, but you never denude any area of 4-leaf clovers. Now, put that same thing with anything you're doing with nature. But today, we would just go out and grab what we can. And that's the problem today. We have no respect for Mother Nature, and we just take rather than giving back. And that was in fact, part of the Amazons that they're now discovering pyramids in South America and whatever, where the actual villages or the big civilizations actually had to leave the area because they cut every tree down, and it totally affected the atmosphere to the point that the earth dried up where they lived, the creeks and rivers dried up, and they had to leave many of those pyramid cities for other areas because they didn't practice what I was just said. And that's it. I'm sorry.
Well, being from Jamaica, the Arawak, my people, we didn't have the school system like that, the Indian schools. Our problem was once the Europeans found out that the Arawak were not good slaves, they started bringing slaves from Africa and just decided to get rid of us. So there are no full-blood Arawaks anymore in Jamaica, at least. And I think there was the last chief had a son who was half, and I think he's died since then. But you go to Jamaica today, there'll be a sign somewhere for like Arawak Key or something, but you don't see any Indians. I was there on several mission trips, told them I was Arawak, and they were all just wowed. Said, we never met an Arawak. Here they are in Jamaica. So rather than the schools, they just tried to get rid of us completely. They used to hunt us for fun with dogs and rifles and so forth. Anyway, so no problem with the schools. As far as starting one ourselves or to teach proper history, history should be taught accurately, all history. I'm not sure about a separate school. I think we've got an awful lot of separating people instead of bringing people together. And I'm getting a little weary of that aspect. So that's where I'm at.
I'm sorry, but let me add to you that things are happening. Many of the universities around the country are actually hiring Indian. So Native American awareness is becoming alive in many universities. In fact, if I were a little younger, I had 3 opportunities to teach at various colleges, not for any other thing, but just teaching Native American history. So it is happening now. Whether it's happening all, I don't know, but there are many of them trying to include that in part of the history courses that they offer.
Well, and Lamar just set me up beautifully, because as a Seminole, I couldn't help but talk about the Florida State Seminoles when we talk about education, and actually a partnership as opposed to being separated or being, at odds. And Chief Osceola and Renegade, who I'm sure if you're any college football fan or basketball fan, you're aware. And if you watch Florida State football, it's the best entrance in college football. And I'm a Georgia fan, right? I mean, having Osceola and Renegade run out there with the flaming spear and throwing it in the field. And, and for a long time, it was, Florida State had a bunch of frat guys out there sort of making fun of the Seminoles, but Florida State decided to work with the Seminole tribe of Florida. And instead of stopping or changing their name, they invited the Seminole Nation and the Seminole tribe of Florida in to work with them to honor the tribe, to honor the heritage of the tribe. And they worked in conjunction. And it's not that Osceola and Renegade are mascots anymore. They are the symbol of Florida State University. And they work together, and the Florida State to this day invites the tribe in for major decisions that affect the university. And it's only made both stronger. When we work together, we're stronger. And I wish that other schools and other teams would look to Florida State as a sample. You don't have to quit using a native symbol, but do it in a way that honors and invite us in for that decision making. So I think Florida State has done well by the Seminoles, and I think it's only benefited both of them. And I agree with Lamar. I mean, so much has been learned about the Seminole history, about Chief Osceola and the Seminole Wars because of that.
And I don't know about you, but I get so tired of people who are not native wanting to force sports teams to do away with native symbols because they've decided that it's derogatory. Well, I don't know about you, but Atlanta Braves, to me, that is a compliment, because a Brave is an honored position in the tribe. It is
Warriors,
not,
yes.
yeah,
Braves,
it's not
Warriors.
a killer. It is a person who is honored for what they do. And so, I'm tired of hearing about, let's do away with that, do away with this. Instead, let's ask the real Native Americans what they think and work together to show what is going on.
Well, I have a current situation where I teach, because I teach part-time at a college, and the first of the month, they said something about some motivational speaker was going to be coming in, whatever. Now I've seen the media centers and all of our emails blasted and plastered with information whenever it's been Hispanic Heritage Month and whenever it's been African American Black History Month. And so I said, I would really love to see something to recognize the fact that November is Native American Heritage Month. And I had a couple people come back with comments like, I've never heard of such a thing, that they never even knew that November was Native American Month. And then I was referred to 2 different people, one that was in charge of the Black History Month and another that was Hispanic Heritage. And they said, oh, well, there were grants given for them to be able to actually pursue and find out information about those ethnicity And I said, well, I would gladly love to provide some information, at least weekly, about some of the history of some of the Native Americans that have shaped our history, and even some little authors and singers and writers, anything like that. Because a lot of people do, like you said, they think that we're all gone. They think that we're all gone. And I don't know if I have to wait for permission, because then I got some other blast from somebody else that says, well, here, use this. And I'm thinking, well, you're not Native American, and you're telling me that I have to use this. That is not necessarily a good source, So again, as far as learning and giving accurate history, yes, I think that we need to, just like Ed was saying, we can't ignore history, because history is history and you can't change the history. But and that's why everybody needs to be educated and aware of the history, not just of, like what we were saying, the Constitution and this and that, but everything that has to do with the Native Americans and all of the accurate history. The things
Brent,
that-
I'd just like to say one thing. I'm not Native American, but I was a chaplain at the Atlanta Penitentiary, and we did not have anything down there. And I built a sweat lodge with the help of the inmates. We had about 10 in the camp and 13 in the penitentiary. We completely built a lodge down there in the federal prison camp. We built a sweat lodge, and I hired Tom Blue Wolf on contract to come in and teach the inmates about their Native American heritage. And he was very instrumental in actually preventing crimes among the population, because the way he talked to them was not the way anybody else could talk to them. And he stopped a lot of potential harm by getting in the sweat lodge and talking straight to them. We had to prepare the sweat lodge with willow trees, and we put blankets over them, and we had to get the wood from the forest near the Atlanta pen. So I had to get a crew to go over with axes and split the wood over there. And I had to supervise them. Then I had to put it on a forklift and carry it inside the penitentiary through the back gate. That was a lot of fun. But basically, inside of prisons, the Native American population is very minuscule. 13, 15 right in there at the Atlanta pen, 10 to 15 out at the camp. And then there's 3,000 inmates when I was there. But we had 3 different institutions: a federal prison camp, a detention center unit, and a United States penitentiary. But with only 23 inmates, a lot of times they got the short end of the stick. So when Tom Blue Wolf came and John Winterhall, they kept meeting with us and meeting with our administrators and saying, look, we need to have powwows. We need to have gathering. We need to have kinnikinnick tobacco, because that's what we need for sage. We need to have this. We need to build this lodge. And so we got sort of a lobby through them, through the contractor and the volunteer that I got. They could speak to power there in a way and get things done. So teaching and instructing and preventing crime and increasing their spirituality was really, I couldn't do it as a chaplain, but Tom Blue Wolf and John Winterhall could do it. So that's the only thing I just wanted to chime in on.
And we appreciate your work with them too. Makes all the difference in the world. Anybody else?
Friends, if I can share with you too, I get occasional phone calls out of the Atlanta area, again, 35 miles south, from school teachers. Give an example of what they ask. Would you come down and speak to a particular class? And by the way, we will let you bring your teepee down and set it up in the parking lot so you can show our kids how you people live. Let me tell you, I can trace it back to the B. Western movies of the 1950s. The early movies were all about wagon trains going west, and the redskins on their spotted ponies are chasing the wagon trains, and you've got to circle the wagon trains to save the women and children. Friends, we've got school teachers still believe that. So another one was a third grade, many programs or whatever give kind of a writing or an interview type of quest for their students to write up whatever. A couple of years ago, a senior nursing student contacted me and wanted to interview me over the phone. And she said, by the way, do your people accept Western? Now, keep in mind, I was talking to him over the phone. Do your people accept Western medicine? By perchance, if you were find yourself in a Western-oriented hospital, would they let you do ceremonies in the room? Friends, this is pitiful. The education, they wouldn't do that to a Black person. They wouldn't do it to anybody. But if you mention Indians, oh, by the way, I get regular requests to come up to, I live in Forsyth County, to visit the reservation. Because you know all Indians live on reservations. So this is the education we have today when it comes to true history.
Yeah. Maybe, one of the things that I felt very honored to do a couple of years ago, I was invited to go and speak to 2 different classes at the International Academy. I can't remember what the name of it is, but you know what I'm talking about? It's
yeah, I remember. I can't remember the name, but I was invited one time too.
I did a PowerPoint presentation for them, and I took things and put on the table, set it out sort of like our conference display table. And then afterwards, the kids came up to look at the stuff. Not one of those precious angels touched anything without asking permission first. I couldn't believe it. In most places, they just go up and snatch things. And I had a Cherokee rose that I had engraved into a piece of stone, and the kid that picked it up just broke it in half, and it's just, oh, this breaks. And I went, so perhaps maybe something on the area of not Vacation Bible School, but a week of immersion. Once we get some property, we might could offer that for people of all ages to come and learn.
That's one of our main uses for that property, where we can have students actually come visit us.
Yes.
Y'all are going to be amazed at what we will put on that property. All the games that the Cherokees use will be fields for people can actually reenact and do those same games. They will be knocking on our door, and that's what we need to do.
And we're looking forward to that. Okay, another
Can I
question.
say one last thing, please?
Yes.
Oh, Mike, when Mike was our pastor, we actually took some of our children's ministries up to the Catawba Reservation to do just some mission work. And it was one of the first times that we went onto the reservation. One of the little boys, Mikey, he goes, "Where are all the Indians?" And I said, "Well, they're all here. They're all right there." And he goes, "I don't see any of them with feathers or leather pants." I mean, they just didn't understand. I said, "Well, I'm Native American. I'm an Indian too." He goes, "No." I mean, they're just flabbergasted. But then when we were there, after we did some work, then Becky Garris came in, and she's a medicine woman with at the Catawba Reservation, and she actually came in and told them some stories about like how the chipmunk got his stripe, and then she even taught them how to sing Amazing Grace in Cherokee. I mean, it was just and we went back, Mike, we go back like 3 or 4 times, and it was great because they got to experience Native American culture, and they got to help, and they got to serve all in one. And it's just, I think it was a true blessing to a lot of them. And I think that's, just the chief even came and answered any sort of crazy question that all the kids asked. It was great.
Let me
Okay,
share with you, Becky, just a moment. A distant cousin of mine, y'all remember up in Cherokee, North Carolina, where there was a teepee at one of the little, whatever, the shops and all, whatever, but it
Yeah.
was a regular Indian teepee. Well, his name was Sneed too. But anyway, I asked him one time, "Well, why don't you kind of dress it a little bit more traditional with a Cherokee?" He said, "Lamar, I tried that one time and I almost starved to death." He said, "People, when they come up, they want a picture with a real Indian dressed like a movie Indian and with the teepee." And he said, "That's the way I make my living. And that's just what I have to do." So people have their precondition on what native, but they might watch one movie and they know that all Indians live on. Let me just share one thing with you as ministers. God bless you. One of the things that I talk about regularly, but Native Americans have the highest alcohol abuse rate. Now, I'm not talking about us and whatever. It's basically off the reservation Indians of the Midwest. But the highest alcohol abuse rate, the highest drug abuse rate, and sadly to say, the highest suicide rate. And though I'm a veteran myself, they have the highest percentage of joining the service than any ethnic group in the country, because that's the ultimate escapism. Well, maybe not the ultimate with suicide, but they join the military and they don't ever go back. But it's sad and something we need to talk about. These so-called Indian reservations, they are Indian, they're federal lands, still living in tar paper shacks, old beat up mobile homes. We've robbed them of their spirituality. Back in the 1890s, just look up on your computer. That, thank God, YouTube now is doing a good job. But when they developed prayer dances or whatever, and 130 of them were killed at one of their prayer dances because the army was so afraid that they were whipping themselves up into a frenzy to become violent. But it's really sad that we hear about our presidents taking they call it empowerment of black zones to put job opportunities in black communities or whatever. Nothing is ever done on these Native Americans locked on these government reservations. There's no jobs, there's no hope, anything. And we all ought to get aside and get these empowerment zones to put a manufacturing concern or whatever to furnish jobs right there where the people live. Sorry, but that's something that just bothers me to no end.
Well, that goes into the next question, which is, one way the story of your tribe shapes your faith. I think when we look at the condition of Native Americans and the way the government treats them, and everybody has the idea that they get a government handout every month to provide for their families, that's just baloney, and so, the story of my tribe and my people have shaped my faith in a lot of ways, because I see the dominant culture speaking one thing which they claim is truth, but it's not true. And the idea of what is truth is still a good question from the Bible. So, and how does the story of your tribe shape your faith is the question that we're dealing with now.
So Becky, I'll jump in real quick. As Seminole, the story of my tribe, I really am very much against like pitting minority against minority and who has it worse, like a race to the bottom. I don't like that because I think that's what white man wants, right? Want us to fight with each other. Mm-hmm. And the Seminole is a great example of Bruce is very passionate about the Good Samaritan. And the Seminole, I think, was the Good Samaritan. And the Seminole Wars, of course, the U.S. government, you'll be shocked to know, broke a treaty. And so But in that breaking of the treaties, the Seminoles said, you know what, we're not going to let you hunt runaway slaves on our land anymore. That's over. And so runaway slaves fled to Seminole land for protection, and the Seminoles didn't really protect them. They just let them live there, and they lived together side by side. And they shared with each other, they traded with each other, and they sheltered each other. And in fact, in the Great Diaspora, the removal to Oklahoma, the Black Americans, they didn't have to go, but they went with the Seminole, which that to me is just so telling that they did that. But yeah, I think for me, the spiritual thing is that we're all family, we're all Creator's children, and we're all blessed and to have Creator.
It's amazing how many people are surprised that Native Americans adopted people into their tribes. You know, when I have said that, people go, no, they killed them. And I'm going, no, they didn't always kill them. You know, anybody else?
Just add one thing, if you don't mind. The
Mhm.
first slaves of this country were not Black. They were Native Americans. They were captured, and many native tribes would go in and maybe hijack people from other tribes, but nevertheless, they would sell them through Charleston or whatever and send them to the Caribbean, just sugar plantations or whatever. This was way before Black. So this idea that one race has a corner on slavery is just not true. All over the world, probably from the Egyptians, you name it, the Irish, everybody has been enslaved at one time or the other. And in our country, Native Americans were first. That's
Yeah.
a fact.
Okay, so what could other people learn from your tribe that would help us to be better people?
Becky, I think just a couple of different things actually. The fact that we are forgiving and we do serve each other, that's a big thing. And then, because like I said, our respect for the earth and all that's in it, I'm a person that really believes in using herbs and things before using anything else. I'm a big, I really don't like antibiotics. I really don't like steroids. So if I can use turmeric or any other herbs, echinacea or anything like that instead, that doesn't cause so much toxicity to our bodies, I think that's really important. And again, just a respect for the earth and pollution. Pollution just drives me absolutely insane. Just like we did Earth Day celebration and we did cleanup, and but Earth Day should be every day. Just those are the things that I think that others should really learn from us. Really respecting the earth and thanking the earth, just like what Mike was saying about giving back. If you're thanking the Creator for the gift of this deer meat, but then you also have more than you need, so you're going to give it to others. So that's only take what you need.
I'm fixing to have to leave, but I was wanting to reference a sermon by John Wesley called Almost a Christian, where he says that the savages of North America and of Africa, they're almost Christian the way they take care of their people. Their children all are clothed. They share food amongst one another. And then he ended with the punchline. Yeah, they are almost Christians, but yet here in London, we have children out in the snow with no shoes. And Lady Sotheby took offense to it and said, see to it that he doesn't return to this church again to preach here. So he stepped on some toes, and I think, like I said before,
for us too as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that we do take care of the least of these. As James said, our religion is defined by how we take care of the widows and the orphans, and not just our words. So I've got to run, guys. It's good. I enjoyed seeing all of you. God bless you. I'm going to have to check out. All right.
Okay, and that's all the time we have for today. So we hope that you have gained a new appreciation for the variety of tribes represented in Georgia. We want to thank each of the people that were online participants. Especially we want to thank Valerie for taking care of the online and videotaping and tweaking it and getting it back on upload so that we can pass it on to other people. If there's online guests there, if you have a question for us, if you will put that on the Facebook page at Georgia Red Clay Mission Inc., we will use those questions for our next question and answer introduction and experiencing of Native culture. And so send us your questions. And until that time, may the Creator bless you and yours. Thank you.
Thank you,
Amen.
folks.
Thank
Good night.
you.